So I'm delighted to welcome Sharon to the podcast. Sharon is founder of the Clean Language Institute, and I'm really interested in some of your background that I'd love you to share, and I guess your journey into the clean language space.
Okay.
So welcome, Sharon.
Thank you, Juliet. It's really good to be here. I'm looking forward to our conversation today and even finding something new as we talk together. So I found clean in a really roundabout way. I had studied different kind of models of helping different counseling, hypnotherapy, neurolinguistic programming, or NLP. And I was looking for something that was simple. So when I found clean, I recognized it as simple, but I soon discovered it's not necessarily easy. It really takes a lot of attention on the other person and on our own, like vocal behaviors and conversational habits. Yeah. So I was working for a weight loss company, and they had a little 5-question model. They used to call it 1-minute motivation. And when I heard that, I thought, okay, there's something different going on here. So I started looking at the background of this model, and that's where I found my trainers in clean language, Wendy Sullivan, and then Marion Way, who I worked with quite closely.
And I love the fact that you said you were looking for something simple, but actually clean language is far from simple. It sounds really simple, the questions, but it's much deeper and richer than I think most people think at the start.
Yeah, I like to use the metaphor of a guitar. So for me, clean language is a little like music. But particularly, it's a little bit about like learning a guitar. So a guitar is super. It's one of the most complex instruments to master, but it's also one of the easiest instruments to just pick up and learn to play. So the clean questions can be used like the C, G, E chords, just strumming along and helping kind of bring more dimension and depth to conversation. But you can also learn to work with what we call modeling using the clean questions that gives an infinite variety and usefulness from investigations to interviews to coaching, therapy, and just hopefully getting along better in the
world. Everyday life.
Everyday life, yeah.
So how long have you run your business, and how long have you been practicing clean language?
So I came across clean in late 2005, and I had my first training in 2006, and I began seriously training others in 2010. So I did a lot of repeats of the trainings. There was something about this that really captured my attention. And I just wanted to be very good. And I could see it was a little like on my website. I use the Japanese enso as my logo. And part of that is the enso is a really simple stroke with a singular brush. It's a circle. But yet people spend their entire lifetimes mastering that singular stroke. And so clean is a little like that for me. It's kind of this place where you're never quite a master, but you get better. I don't know. For me, that's exciting.
Yeah, that's intriguing in so many ways. And so I guess with your experience around clean language, what kind of future would you like to see where clean language is used, perhaps, or can it? Do you think it can influence the future?
Yeah, I do think it can. And I think that there's a lot of people who have been trained in clean language questions and other clean language methodologies that are kind of working towards that end, trying to bring it into our everyday conversations. So it doesn't have to be a therapeutic or a coaching tool. It doesn't have to be an interview. It Clean teaches a unique way of listening to others where you take their words very literally, you hear the metaphors in their speech, which tells you a lot about their logic. So it's more than just an inquiry. It's a real it can be a real rich give and take, where you can find out what other people want to have happen, what kind of future they want. So I think it's a beautiful way of bringing a questioning model to our conversations that can be very generous to other people.
Mm. For those who perhaps haven't heard of clean language, because there's a lot of people that haven't, or are interested in it, could you explain a little bit more? Because you touched on a few of the questions there, but just
Mm.
explain it a little bit more for people.
Yeah, so the clean language questions were first devised by a gentleman, David Grove, and he worked many years, about 14 years, creating questions that were clean, metaphor, metaphorically clean of presupposed content as language can be. The intent was to not put our stuff or our ideas into other people's thinking. Um, if we really want to know what somebody else is thinking or wanting, letting them express it in a way that works best for them is just a super way to go about it. So the questions are simple. What kind of anything else? Where or whereabouts is? What would you like to have happen? What happens next? What happens just before? So the questions aren't the magic. It's the modeling and hearing people's metaphors for how things are. Um, so if somebody says life is a bowl of cherries versus, like a war zone, those are two very different metaphors, and you're going to listen and attend to that information differently.
Mm, mm. Yeah, and in my experience, quite often it doesn't make sense when you're coming
Yeah.
out with those words, but it does eventually build that picture and that landscape for them that suddenly makes sense. It makes sense so they can then do whatever it is they want to do next.
Yeah, yeah. And it can help avoid misunderstanding.
Mm,
Um, I heard a story from another trainer, and somebody had said, "Oh, you're just, a good friend said, oh, you're just like an old couch." And the woman who was told that thought, an old couch, like she wasn't sure how to take that. Was it a
mm,
good thing? Was it a bad thing? So she says, anything else about an old couch? And her friend told her, yes, it's just so comfortable. It's like, it's the place you can sit and your whole body gets to relax and be in total ease. And so something that didn't sound great
mm.
actually turned out to be really great. Um, or I had a client once who was talking about being underneath the cold, dark earth. And I'm thinking, oh, is this a good thing or not? So I just asked him, is this what you want, to be under the cold, dark earth? And he said, oh, yes. He says, I'm a seed. And it was like, oh, okay.
Mm.
I didn't know there was a seed there.
I love that. It's amazing what happens in people's heads.
Yeah,
Really,
we're
it's amazing.
we're pretty creative beings. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But
And
that's the richness, isn't it? That's the richness of it.
yeah, and David Grove used to say clean language is simple because people are complex enough. So
Mm,
adding layers of our own opinion or our own life experience on top of other people's expression, uh, although it can be rich when you have a quality understanding with somebody, it can also be a hindrance to getting to know them better.
Mm.
Yeah. So
Mm. Mm.
sometimes I use the what needs to happen question, like when I'm at a hotel or traveling and I want something and I'm not sure how to get it. I'll just ask the person, and what needs to happen for, you know, access to the concierge lounge, perhaps. And it's amazing what happens when I give the possibility of solution to the other person rather than telling them what I want and saying that
Mm.
they have to do it for me. It's kind of like, oh, what needs to happen? Like a point of curiosity. But it does need to be done in a way that is that you're okay with a no, or you're okay if there's not a solution to what you want. So
Yeah.
what do they say in NVC? A request, not a demand. Yeah.
Yes. So you talked about going on your language journey as you wanted
Hmm.
to be an expert in that. So where does that sit going forward then? You know, because there's so much going on in the world right now, and perhaps even more so than ever in our lifetimes. Or maybe it's become more visible. I don't know, but there
Mm.
is so much. Where do you where could clean language help with that?
Well, there's something interesting that happened for me when I started studying clean language, because I always thought I was pretty easygoing and I didn't have strong opinions. And what I discovered is I actually do have strong opinions. So I don't know how it might work for other people, but for me, I know that having a background in clean and understanding the principles and just being able to use some clean questions helps me temper my opinions by gaining better information from the other people I'm around and fostering respect for their
Mm.
version of how life is for them.
Mm.
Um, and that respect has led to some very rich conversations with people who have extremely differing views than I do. Um,
Mm.
and and sometimes to minds changing or hearts changing, and that's I think that's a really significant skill set, that if we can all be just a little bit better at that, that the future has a greater possibility of holding the variety of human beings that we are, regardless of whether we want to be a variety or not. It's going to happen. It's, you
Mm.
know, so
So I heard then the sort of entering the conversations, but also being able to almost like understand the things that are going on in you that you want to say, and maybe I know you said tempering, but being able to have those conversations and come from a place of learning, perhaps, and understanding
yeah,
that comes with,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and helping, it's not unusual as human beings for us to have all sorts of tangled feelings and thoughts,
Mm.
we talk, it's really common nomenclature to say, oh, one part of me and another part of me, or this experience taught me this, but this experience taught me that. So, um, sometimes just a few clean questions can help someone kind of tease out, uh, more information that they find useful about their
Mm.
thinking or their rational or their logic. Um, and and it can be a beautiful moment when it becomes really authentic to that person, when they kind of get themselves even. Yeah.
Mm. Mm. Yes, yeah. Um, I often think about it like a ball of string or ball of wool, quite complex.
Mm.
There's lots going on, the overthinking. And I think we've even talked about this before, where as you
Yeah.
start teasing out those threads, and it's not about unraveling, it's just about almost like being much more aware and open as to what's going on with us, to what's going on with everyone else. And
Yeah.
often
Yeah.
conflict starts that way, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Like David Grove used to talk about, like a big bundle of undifferentiated information.
Mm.
But if you just take one thread on that ball of of yarn, like you're talking about, and you pull one thread, it can actually knot the other ones up. So there is something to this asking questions around and really listening to the logic and paying attention in a way that helps loosen everything. Even when you're talking to yourself, I'm a self-talker.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. 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 I've certainly found that, and it's a good reminder because I should do it more about asking yourself those just 2 or 3 questions, particularly when you get stuck or you're in that overthinking mode, and just going, okay, what does that mean? Because it just helps you make sense and get it out on paper.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I want to talk about Metaforum, which is, you just announced the dates.
Yes.
So tell us a bit more about Metaforum. So I attended the first time last year, and it wasn't overwhelming, but it blew my mind a little bit around all the conversations that were happening in sort of the 24 hours. So tell us a bit more about
so anything else about it blew your mind?
Lots of people, lots of conversations. And I came to it was, how do I find my feet? And I think I learned sort of halfway in the day that I just listen to what's going on and just understand that whilst we talk about clean language being simple, there are so many different things that people are doing. And almost like different flavors of things going on.
Yeah. So one thing that David Grove made really clear as he was developing these clean language questions and utilizing the principles that underlie it is for people to take it and test it and make it their own. And so Metaform is like it's a global gathering. It's online, and it happens over a 12-hour period. There are some preset sessions, but people are welcome to come and do an impromptu session. We have multiple rooms for emergent ideas that you can put on the board. So we have a gathering. I mean, I think we had about 130 people last year. And it's there's a little open spacey thinking in it, but it's not an open space process. But it kind of is. So you can come and go from a room. You can start listening to someone talk, and if it's not quite serving you, you can move over to another Zoom room. So it's in this kind of this virtual portal, like a big conference area that's warm and friendly. We even have a pub and coffee shop that you can visit if you just want some time out. So that's happening Saturday, the 7th of December. And it starts at 9 a.m. GMT. So we decided the UK time seems to work the best. So a little of us, like here in the US, we get up really early. And there are other places in the world where they stay up really late. But it's a great gathering, and it's welcome. We welcome everyone. If you know the littlest bit about clean, you're welcome to attend. You're welcome to share what difference clean language has made for you. And have some fun and learn something new.
Yeah, it's very it's insightful, I think, for people who just want to explore that world, because it does, for me, it felt like a different world until I got to know that world. It's a nice place to just explore and listen in on the conversations that are happening. So we will share the link for that so people can, so I think the early bird tickets are up, aren't they?
So we're doing a little bit different thing this year. We're selling community supporter tickets first to help support scholarships. And then early bird tickets will come on sale. So the tickets range between $54 and $150. And you are welcome to join a wait list, and Juliet will put a link up for you. And so they'll go on sale April 5th, and then early bird tickets will be on sale April 19th. So if you want a little bit lower price ticket, April 19th is the date that you'd be looking for your email on that.
Lovely.
Yeah. And we do have
That's great.
scholarships available. That's the whole reason we're doing this community supporter. So
Mm,
money shouldn't be an issue. If you cannot afford the ticket, we as a community are here to support you to attend.
mm. Yeah, that's great because there are,
Mm,
well, as we know, it can open it up to other people in the world which just would like some space and share their curiosity
yeah.
in that
Yeah.
room. Brilliant. So yes, we'll put all the links in there.
Super.
So aside from Metaforum, what else do you do, Sharon?
So right now I do private facilitation
Mm.
coaching. It's kind of more, well, it can be any kind of coaching the person wants. So I do a clean language facilitation. So I work with the clean language questions, metaphor. I help clients create their own desired outcome. And doing this cleanly helps people to really differentiate what they want to have happen versus their shoulds or coulds. So I'm doing that currently. I do have space available. And then we've got Metaforum going on. And between now and then, I don't have any trainings up, but if you subscribe to my list, I will let you know when I have something fun and interesting happening. So,
Mhm. Brilliant. So, top 3 tips from you, further reading, something around clean language, what you believe in around clean that you could share with our viewers.
yeah. So, top 3 tips. Um, Listen, just give yourself an extra 1 or 2 seconds in every conversation to listen, quite literally, to what the person is saying. You can ask a question, what kind of, or anything else about almost anything, and it will expand. If somebody's talking about their bicycle, oh, what kind of bicycle? If somebody's talking about an opportunity, oh, anything else about that opportunity? Um, and uh, and begin to pay attention to what you're paying attention to when you're in a conversation. Are you thinking about what you'd like to say next? Or are you putting your attention on the other person? And this is a learnable skill. Um, like when I get excited, I don't listen very well, and so I still have to practice doing that. But if you subscribe to my newsletter, you do get a little. It's 4 questions in 5 days, so it talks a little bit about. It's just a little PDF. Talks about the questions, gives you an example of the different questions in use, and then occasionally I send out other resources that you can use to just get familiar with the questions and to begin using them in a way that works for you. So, yeah.
Mm. Mm. Why are those 3 things really important?
Um, because think that I think that we spend a lot of time being taught about how to be clever and how to ask a clever question, but we don't always get good instruction or experience listening. Um, we're taught to be very individualistic and have our opinions. And I think there's a very valuable thing to learn in being able to hold your own opinion and someone else's opinion
Mm.
as equal. Um, not necessarily desirable, but definitely equal. um,
Yeah.
and yeah, overall, it just helps make other people feel comfortable. And honestly, it will help make you be more likable. People like people who listen to them. Um, and the questions asked to others and yourself can lead to a different future, perhaps a more tolerant, respectful future. So,
Mm. Yeah, I love that. And I think I just would like to add a note that a lot of people talk about listening,
mm,
being better listeners. This kind of listening really does shift the way you listen.
Yeah.
because I know we've talked about it being clean, but the attention that's paid without being inquisitive, but just a gentle attention paid on that question or that person or the words that are coming out and the way their body language is almost like far superior than any other listening. People talk about listening all the time, but this is very different. Very different.
Yeah. I remember Wendy Sullivan, when I was working with her in 2006, she called it listening exquisitely. And I really liked that. That just was like, okay. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sharon.
Thank you,
Love the
Julia.
conversation. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. You as well.